Hello, good afternoon again to those who are tuning in for ProsTalk. ProsTalk is the social corporate responsibility of building. This is the platform for everyone that builds. Today, we are going to be joined again by our very special guest, Mr. David Leechiu. Hi, sir.
Hello, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
And we also have Mr. Stuart Lim, one of the co-founders of Buildy. Hi, Stu.
Hi.
All right. Last week, we were talking to Mr. Leechiu about residential spaces. Today, we will talk to him about the commercial situation, commercial real estate. So, sir, just off the bat, what is your general outlook for commercial real estate in 2022 in a post-pandemic world?
I am excited for the demand side of the equation because this global pandemic crisis has created more demand for Philippine jobs and Philippine talent because of the BPO sector. The BPO sector continues to drive growth and employment in the Philippines, so much so that it insulates us from any global crisis. The crisis of COVID could have hit us much worse, but it has not. And that's partly because of the BPO sector and partly because of the overseas remittances that continue to fund jobs and economic velocity and liquidity in this country. The reason why you and I are here today in this talk is because of all the wealth created by the overseas remittances in the BPO sector. So we are going to close 2021 with more or less 500,000 square meters of new leases in the Philippines, throughout the country. And I can tell you that's one of the highest numbers in the world in the second year of this global COVID pandemic. And in 2020, we closed the year at 389,000 square meters of new leases. And again, that's some of the highest numbers. It's probably top two, top three largest in terms of volume of square meter transactions in the world happening right here in our front yard, the Philippines.
There's some very interesting numbers. What's driving that? Is it because of the policies about physical distancing within the workplace?
It's really driven by the need for Western companies to cut costs. So if you're a CEO, a global CEO, and you're looking at your global operations and you're realizing that COVID has ravaged every economy in the world, right? You're going to realize that for the next 3 to 5 years, there probably isn't much top-line growth. So in order to protect your margins and grow your margins without growing your top line, your only recourse is to cut costs to produce margin. And part of that cost-cutting feature or program is to bring productivity to locations that are cheaper. And that's why the Philippines ranks very highly in the minds of many CEOs today. Prior to year 2000, nobody bothered about the Philippines. Nobody. I would go to regional and global conferences, and the moment because I look Chinese, so they talk to me. But when I give them my card, they say, "Oh, Philippines, okay, bye." And there's a point when I didn't even bother to give my card out or talk to anybody. I'll just go, listen, attend, and everything. But now they say, "Oh my God, Philippines! Wow, we have this much headcount, blah 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 blah." And that's what's driving all of this: the need to cut costs and increase productivity. As they migrate jobs from the West to the Philippines, productivity improves dramatically. Attrition falls dramatically. Many people don't realize this, but do you know what the attrition is in the US and Europe? For this job, it is about 120%. What that means is that everyone who you hired in January would have left the organization by August, you know, and I don't know. You're gonna go. I can tell. You know, I have an operation of 120 people. It's a small business. If I had 120% attrition, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. You know, I'd probably just hide in my bed. But in the Philippines, the attrition rate for the same job is at the most 50% a year.
Right.
And even at 50%, that's kind of insane, right?
Yes.
But for the BPO sector, they say, what? It's only 50%? Oh my God. I'm there next day, you know, Philippines.
Right, right. So, sir, are you foreseeing, because one of the things that the pandemic did indicate is that because of the new technologies, people can actually work from home. Will that,
Yeah, I think work from home has surprised everyone how well and easy it has done, because the expectations for it were so bad that many local operators were pleasantly surprised with how well people adapted to work from home. It's not been easy for a lot of people. It certainly has not been easy, but the results have been surprisingly pleasant. Companies don't want to go back to office because, as you know, many BPOs work night shift,
right,
and work 18 hours to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what many people don't realize is that their air conditioning cost, the cost to run their air conditioning systems, more often than not, is bigger than their spend on rent of the office. So BPOs continue to pay, many companies, many multinationals, 98%, 99% of multinationals in the Philippines continue to pay their rent even if they have not used those office spaces for 19 months. And yet they would prefer to work from home because it saves them money sanitizing the office, you know, all these doubled workforce because of the social distancing. And you can only use 1/3 to 1/2 of your space at the most. And you don't have to switch on the aircon, which is a big cost item. And all of a sudden, you're saving real money. And of course, they're bearing with work from home. But the situation work from home is pretty brutal because many people don't have air conditioning at home. They don't have insulated roofing. And so during the day, it's bloody hot. You know, during the day, especially in the summer, it's very hot at home. You know, in my first years of my career, I lived in a house where it was GI sheet house, and my God, it was hot. And then of course you have your relatives, you know, who are so disorganized and chaotic, and they bother you all the time. So there's no peace at home, and then, you know, you might be the CEO of your organization when you're in the office, but when you're at home, you have no power, you know, because your spouse has more power in the universe of the home-niverse, you know. So right now we go back to the office, and when we go back to the office, all of a sudden respect is restored, authority is restored. One word you say and people say go, and they do it. When you say jump, everyone says, how high, sir? But when you're at home, it's like nobody listens to you. You have no authority. Nobody respects you. Everyone tells you to do stuff, you know. And when people say to me, you know what, work from home is really good for me. It's fantastic. I've been doing blah, 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 blah. Ah, really? Okay. Have you asked your spouse that? Have you asked your wife what she really thinks about work from home, about you being at home 24/7? Have you ever asked your husband what he really thinks about you being work from home 24/7? Have you asked your kids? Have you asked your brother? Have you asked your mom and dad?
Right. So I think for most organizations right now, especially the IBPAP members, those are some of the trends, right? You do surveys and you would expect that it would be a landslide over work at home, but you'll be surprised because there's a segment in our community that prefers to actually be in the office. So from that perspective, do you foresee that, and I heard you mention earlier that 500 square meters of space is an additional or an outlook for 2022. Do you foresee that continue to grow?
Yes. Faster than ever. Faster than 2020, faster than 2021. Our projections for office leasing volume in 2022 is somewhere around 600 to 700,000 square meters. And that's, so again, 389,000 square meters in 2020, more or less around 500,000 in 2021, and 600 to 700,000 in 2022. And if we are able to reactivate the Pogo sector, which I think will happen, then that number will probably hit 800 to 900,000 square meters in 22. And we have a good chance of reaching 1 million square meters again in 2023. And going back to work from home, ultimately companies will go back to office 100%. Some faster than others. So this hybrid combination is just a temporary measure as we go back to the office full time. There is one thing that cannot be found in Zoom, and that is the human connection. When the speaker is engaging, when she is so good looking, people are like enthralled and from the audience, and you just lose that in Zoom or Teams, unless your camera has a fantastic filter that makes you shed 5-10 years of your age and your wrinkles go away. And so I think the one piece that's missing in the demand side is the Pogo sector, and we need to spend a bit of time because there's such a big component to the economy. I'm in favor of Pogos expanding in the Philippines, even though some minority loud voices disdain them. They are the fastest growing, they're not the largest, but they were the fastest growing demand driver in the office segment. They also pay very high rent, they pay very high salaries, they pay advance rent and security deposit in the tune of 2 to 3 years worth in advances. That insulates the developer from a lot of economic shocks. They provide a lot of tax revenue, both to local government and national government, because as you know, to get the license and to get the letter of no objection, the so-called LONO certificate, those are very expensive certificates. And they pay very high salaries to both the work staff as well as the domestic staff, to the drivers, to the support staff. And if they occupy 1.7 million square meters of office space pre-pandemic, they also occupy 2 million square meters of residential space. They are the single biggest component of the residential sector, and they move the property market on steroids. And it was such a big component to the economy, people just didn't realize it. All they see is that, oh, there are all these like foreign workers here that are uncouth. Oh, all of a sudden, there's so many restaurants, I can't compete against these people. They're buying out all these things. But besides all those benefits, the one big benefit that people don't appreciate enough is that the quality of Chinese food in the Chinese restaurants in the Philippines have dramatically improved, because of all the Chinese chefs that we imported from everywhere into the Philippines. And that gives a new cultural experience for many people here in the Philippines.
Thank you for that, sir. We will be joined by Mr. Seward Lim right now. He has a couple Q&A for the commercial.
Yeah. Sir David, just a follow-up question on the Pogo sector, because I have mixed feedback. The other Pogo said that they're not doing very well, but the other side, they're looking for space. Actually, they're not renting anymore. They want to purchase a space. So what's your take on this Pogo for the next year?
Yes, I'm hoping. So the feedback I get from many operators is that they have stopped contracting. So the Pogo sector itself has shed about 40% of their footprint. So about 600, 700,000 square meters of office space they have let go. And the range is between 400 to 500,000 square meters. I'm just trying to remember correctly, but fortunately they have stopped contracting. They are on its way to stabilizing, and I'm hoping that by second quarter next year, going to start growing again. And it's not just about China. China is, yes, the single biggest component, but it is not the majority of the demand in the BPO sector. There are European Pogos, Japanese Pogos, Malaysian, Singaporean, American, Australian, Canadian. Basically, anywhere in the planet where there is gambling, there is a component here in the Philippines. And again, they are a meaningful part of the office sector, meaningful part of the residential sector. They are the biggest drivers of mall sales in the Philippines. Not necessarily mall traffic, but definitely mall sales. The biggest component is Pogo sector. They are a big component for car sales, Alphard sales, Land Cruiser sales, SUV sales.
Sir David, actually, I've been to Bulacan. Actually, there's a lot of warehouses building there. And I also went to Pampanga. There's a lot of casinos built there. So, what other locations do you see that it will prosper?
Everywhere where the local government is willing to accept them, where there is easy transport and an international airport.
Yeah. A lot of airports are opening right now. Actually, there's also, because the interest rate in the Philippines are going down, there's REIT already. They're looking for other investment other than time deposits. So what other REIT what REIT company will be issuing soon?
So in addition, besides the stock market and the real estate market, I would encourage people to buy REITs, REIT, Real Estate Investment Trusts, because they are the hybrid between owning real estate and owning stocks. So they give you the benefits of getting steady dividends, which mimic rental income. They give capital appreciation of the stock, so stock price appreciation, which mimic the asset appreciation. And the tax friction is so low. The tax friction in a stock is 1.5%. Round trip. Buy, sell, it's round trip 1.5%. In selling condo or real estate, the minimum tax is 6%. It could be as high as 25%, it could be as high as 50%, depending on the gap between transaction value and zonal value. And so that's the main benefits of owning REITs stocks. And the only downside to owning stocks is that it's not as sexy as owning real estate. Because real estate, you can show off to your prospective girlfriend, prospective boyfriend, your prospective jowa or husband or wife, when you can invite him or her to your apartment and say, wow, look at this, look at my apartment, look at the view of my apartment, look at the furniture, look at this, look at my sala, my feature showroom kitchen, and my bedroom. It's sexy that way. It's not very sexy when you go to your prospect jowa and say, hey, look at my stock certificates. Do you know how much stocks I own of Ayala Land or SM Prime? It's kind of baduy, So there's no yabang factor in owning stocks other than you're a smart investor. But there is this human connection when you show real estate to people.
Yeah. My last question, Sir David. How about for the property market? What's the new innovation? There's a lot of online already, diba, posting. So what's next, or what's still in for the property market?
I have learned so far that social media has been good in generating eyeball views, right? But not necessarily translating to sales. You can have 1 million listings in your website, but if you're not able to convert that to sales, then you will just become another yellow pages, modern day yellow pages, where either YouTube or IG or TikTok will pay you, hopefully, for all those views, and hopefully it pays you enough. Fortunately or unfortunately, you still need brokers like me to help you transact and close a deal. As much as you can access so much information online. Yes, there are a lot of transactions happening online, but it might be big in terms of volume, but in terms of value, they're still fairly low. You might transact a 5 million, 3 million, 600,000 peso apartment or house and lot online, right? But you will definitely want to be physically there on site if you're looking to buy, 20 million peso apartments or $20 million property.
Okay, that's all my question, Sir David. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stu. And again, Sir David, thank you so much for guesting on ProsTalk. I'm pretty sure those that have watched us have learned a lot from this. And again, for those who are looking to understand more about real estate and you need professional assistance, please look up Leechiu online, and you will be given all the support that they typically do for their customers. So with that, again, thank you for joining us today, Sir David.
Thank you, Sir David.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Natalie, for having me. It's a privilege to be here.